Good afternoon. Welcome to a session that is bound to be the most exciting session of the day. No bias here. I want to introduce you to how we hope we can help small firms grow profits with cloud-based payroll. You'll be pleased to hear that you won't be hearing very much from me. My name is David Lester, founder of CitrusHR. But we've assembled a fantastic panel of people, practitioners, firms, accountants, bookkeepers, doing this for real now, and it's them we're here to hear from. So we'll hear real life examples and stories of how they've made improvements to making their payroll more profitable, which is what it's all about. So I'm going to start by getting them each to introduce themselves. Rizwana.
Hi. My name is Rizwana. I have a small business called Ricom Limited. I have a few employees and I set up about 10 years ago. And initially it was all about accounts and bookkeeping, but I've then ventured out into payroll and HR. Started off with HR and now obviously run payroll through HR, the HR system. But I've been on cloud-based for quite some time anyway, so I think it's a great advantage to be on a cloud-based payroll software.
Thanks. Paul.
Hi, Paul from, and it's a bit of a mouthful, Cloud Accounting Support Services, or CAS for short. We're 5 years old and have been 100% in the cloud from the start, so we know no different. We've not had a transition from desktop payroll into the cloud, but we have transitioned from various payroll systems over the time to try and fit what our clients need.
Hi everyone, I'm Frances from Farnell Clark. So we're a firm of about 75 people and our payroll team is made up of 4 people, and just to give you some context, we run about 400 payrolls a month, a few weeklies and a few fortnightlies, just to give you some context as to my end of it, and I am on desktop payroll software. Sorry.
For now.
For now.
Thank you all of you. So we've got a good variety of experiences and firms here to talk about different approaches. So let's get stuck in. So Rizwana, what caused the most pain for your payroll team before cloud payroll?
So it's all about doing the manual stuff. I think with cloud-based, because everything gets fed in, all the updates from HMRC, which is very beneficial, just time consuming, the efficiencies have become a lot better by using cloud-based. I did, like you obviously went complete cloud-based. I did start off with a desktop software, so it's all in my control. Now having it cloud-based, I just find that there's less time I spend doing actual work. You put employees' data in and it's done. You might have to make a minor tweaks here for individual pays, but otherwise it's done very quickly. So for me, cloud-based is the way to go.
And Frankie, obviously you're still running non-cloud-based, so what are the pain points there?
Okay, so we work in a hosted environment, which in itself costs us some big bucks each year. We have to run that not just because of our payroll software, but because of we use Iris. So that brings with it its usual challenges. So if you remember Sage 50, for instance, you've got to make sure you do your updates, which means downtime. Only one person can log in at the one time. And there wasn't any in-client engagement. So we did actually move from MoneySoft, which we've been with since day one, and we moved to BrightPay for the 2021 tax year. So although we moved from desktop to desktop, when we were looking, there wasn't an offering on the market for us. So it's quite a big change. We went with BrightPay because they did have Connect, which is like a cloud portal, which meant that clients could still have an interaction. And also, it sounds daft to say this now, but it automated journals. So before then, obviously, we were having a junior having to do payroll journals on the 1st of every month into our Xero accounts, which is just a nonsense when you look back at it now. So although we're desktop, we do have the integrations required that do speed up and make some automations. But the cost of hosted is...
the pain, your biggest pain is the cost?
Absolutely,
okay.
Yes.
Understand, good. No problems. Paul, why did you move from your last payroll?
So we've been with Xero, or we were with Xero Payroll from the day we started, and we found that the ability to continually change pay rates and link it back to part-time hours primarily led us down the CitrusHR route. And yes, there is a shameless plug for Citrus there. But what we were finding was things like holiday pay. If an employee works Monday, Wednesday, Friday in Zero World and they book holiday, it assumes that they're doing their part-time hours across 5 days. So that gave us a major headache when you were trying to work out, well, what days should they be paid for holiday? Citrus takes all that pain away because it's driven by the hours that they're actually contracted within their payroll record. So for us, that's a massive win, a massive, massive win.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Rizwana. Yeah.
So for me, I did start off with desktop software when it came to accounting. I moved to cloud-based and Xero was my platform. When I moved to Xero to do all accounting, payroll was naturally the one to use as well. So I actually use Xero Payroll for a lot of my clients. I'm now transitioning to Citrus Payroll Bureau purely because I use it for the HR platform. I find it's a lot easier because all the data is already in Citrus HR, managing the employees. And as Paul mentioned, because the data's in there, they work out the number of hours you actually work and it plugs it into your payroll. Whereas in Xero, you have to do a fair bit of manual adjustments. If it's holiday owed, when somebody leaves, you've got to work everything out. And I think having the link between a HR platform and payroll all in one makes it a lot easier to manage the whole process. You're more efficient, you're spending less time. I was duplicating data in both in payroll in Xero and then in Citrus HR. To avoid that, for one of my clients, I've actually moved them from Xero Payroll to Citrus HR to avoid the duplication and saves me time, better for the client.
I think as well from Xero Payroll point of view, it's not a bureau product. So as you're growing as a firm, what you'll suddenly want to know is, I want a dashboard of all my clients. I want to know who's managed by who. I want to know when they were last filed. And I think as you grow, you need to look ahead and be like, what will help me internally run my firm better? And I want to have those insights. So having a bureau dashboard and insights is just so powerful.
It is. I think what's really important is the fact that when you do move to the bureau software, the clicks that you would do on an individual payroll, you can actually then do at client level. So you can do 5, 6, 10 payrolls with the same number of clicks as doing one inside each client, and that's a massive time saver. So what's probably coming across from certainly the three of us is the biggest way you can make payroll profitable is to actually save time.
And on that though as well, sorry, I'll just keep jumping in, with direct to pay runs, we started off doing payroll and we always want to send monthly pay slips because that's a monthly touch point with clients. We could have done it annually and just done directors only and just done it annually. So that touch point is really important, but you don't want to be processing directors' payrolls monthly because that's really time consuming. So again, products where you can do bulk submissions, so clients are still getting that pay slip, they're still getting an email from you, there's an opportunity for them to talk to you or ask a question, and that is, again, just so important to make sure you get delivering to each client.
That's great. Thank you very much, Paul. You touched on it just there. The next question is what we're really all here for. How do we make more profit? Frankie, how are you making more profit?
Okay, so warts and all, you said. Warts and all.
Warts and all. People like hearing the warts especially.
So we didn't used to charge for payroll. We just used to provide it. We wrapped it up in our fixed monthly fees, which is absolutely mind-boggling to think that that's what we did. We then moved to banding number of employees and again charging a fixed fee. And now we did annual reviews and we'd be like, oh my God, that client's like tripled in staff numbers, but we've only been charging them for a third, whatever it might be. So we've become really, really hot on what we're charging. So we've done a recent review. So we now charge per payslip. We now charge per new starter, leaver, setting up a PAYE scheme, setting up pension. And just from doing those really simple things that we were offering for free before, I think we made like £2,000 in the first quarter, and that was just our first go. So that was just free work we were offering up. Obviously, we got a few grumbles from clients, naturally, but because of the client service and the explanation behind it and the value, we didn't lose anyone from it. So I think if you're worried about it, You probably lose the ones you don't like anyway.
Thanks. Roswana?
So for me, the way I charge clients is I don't charge typically on fixed fees. I actually charge on an hourly basis on all my work. And that's been my USP actually right from the very beginning, despite being given advice to charge on fixed costs on tasks that I do. So when it comes to payroll, the more time I spend, the more I'm charging the client by the hour. So by moving, especially from zero payroll now to CitrusHR Payroll Bureau, I'm saving that bit more time. It's less cost to the client, and therefore it's profitable for them. So that's the main sort of thing for me as well. Even though I don't charge a lot, but it's still by the hour. Whatever I can save the client, and ultimately that's our aim, to save money for the client and make them happy.
Paul, do you want to talk about that as well?
Yeah. So we're very much like Frankie here. We very much fix fee it, and we've done it from day one. But the way we've tried to sell it is very much one of, it's a compliance requirement, the payroll, and actually by encouraging a professional to do it, you take away risk, paying somebody wrong, and ultimately you're playing with people's livelihoods, and I think that's really important. So we are, as I say, very much fixed fee. We are very aware of new starters, leavers, changes, and something that we do is by using the cloud tech that's there, we will get the client to sign off on a draft pay run before we finalize it, but then we'll hit them for additional charges if they've approved it and then come back with, or we forgot to add someone's overtime, we'll add it and we'll roll back payrolls, but actually they'll pay a premium because it's about making it work, yes, for the client, but it's got to be profitable for us.
So one of the criticisms or the concerns we've heard from a number of people about moving to the cloud is the cost of cloud payroll software versus desktop payroll software. And how are you finding that?
No, I haven't had that problem. The efficiencies it's creating means that ultimately we're able to be more reasonable for clients. No.
Yeah. I think your break-even point from a payroll perspective suddenly drops massively because you're not talking about going and getting a desktop piece of software that you then have to pay, and whether that's a Bright Pay, and yes, they've got Connect coming, or whether it's a Sage, where every year you've got those updates, and that can be mid-year updates as well, depending on what the old government do. So actually, that ability to pay a slightly less subscription for cloud, but the reassurance for us as a firm is that we know it is always up to date, it's always real time, and we don't have that worry about, well, tax tables have changed or NI rates have changed. And obviously the ill-fated additional NHS charge, we didn't have to get involved in different updates, it just happened for us.
So for me, again, no question when it came to clients. It was actually my decision for a lot of my clients because I manage everything for them. If I want to change their payroll system, it's my decision. I basically tell them, and my argument will be, it's going to save you time because I'm going to spend less time doing something. So I think that's a big factor, and I cannot do that. In terms of cost, I've not found cloud-based payroll software to be expensive. It gets integrated into something or the other. If it's zero, yes, you've got an additional minute amount to pay. Same with CitrusHR. I feel it gets covered in the cost of the software and the time that you save. So I've not had any issues where clients have questioned the cost of the payroll software, the cloud-based software.
And a lot of clients don't even know what we're using.
Yeah.
Apart from when they interact with the portal, they don't care, and we don't tell them what the cost of a software is. So that's our decision.
Yeah, it's one of the things that can change. So it's something that you can make one of the cloud options is employee portals that can be rebranded, but can make it clear to them what you're using. But you don't have to. That's an option.
In terms of other profitable areas that we've gone into, payroll just makes a lot of sense for HR. So, as soon as you see a new employee, it's an instant question. Have you got a contract? Have you got a handbook? Have you got a HR system to manage them and their appraisals? We use CitrusHR for Final Clerks HR, which is brilliant for managing our team. So employed a HR person. For the first year, she sorted us out. And then she's now started to open up a service line. Again, in the last couple of months, she's made or taken on 25 grand retainer a year clients without any marketing or promotion. So she's hoping to hit 10 grand a month in fees, recurring fees. So that's a whole new service line, which also makes it easy for us to talk to our clients. And when clients talk to us, we don't just go, oh, hand you over to somebody else. We're able to help, be involved a lot more. So that's another really, really cool area for us to be expanding at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with Frankie on that one because, again, I've also branched out and started doing HR for clients because they ask for it. So I think it helps for you as an add-on service to be being the one point of call for your clients to go to, be it for HR, for tax, for finance, for accounts, reporting. So when a client asks me, can you take over HR, can you manage employees? Because I've always done payroll for them, but never the HR element. So when they asked me, can you start doing inductions and exit interviews? I'm like, okay, yeah, absolutely fine. Have no idea what I'm doing, but yes, absolutely fine, I am. I remembered meeting CitrusHR a few years back, reached out to them, and then the journey just basically started.
And the great thing is you don't have to recruit somebody either, do we? We can just come straight to you guys and have that extra arm of support.
Absolutely.
So I was going to ask about support, actually. So one of the things we hear is that what's your support like? Because payroll matters. You need a support answer pretty quickly, and you need it to be right. You've got to help your clients. So have you found support at the different places you've used for payroll?
So I can talk about this in our firm. We got someone underperforming, been with us for about 7 or 8 months. So no real sort of issues about dismissal, but actually doing it the right way. I lent on the Citrus guys on the Friday. By Monday morning, I'd got my notice to action, called them to a meeting, and on the Wednesday, they'd already done my termination letter. The turnaround is swift, and the reassurance for us when we agreed to work with Citrus was very much the fact that they've got all of the infrastructure behind them. So as a small sort of growing firm, I didn't have to worry that I'd got a solicitor in tow or a HR specialist. I'd got one number to call, tell them my problem, and they give us the answers and actually the supporting documentation to those answers. And what you pay per month for that against paying a solicitor or a HR specialist on a retainer, it's a no-brainer when actually it's wrapped up within your entire package.
I was just going to say, actually, that costs a company a lot of money when you've got an underperforming person. So the quicker they're talked to, the better for the company, obviously.
Yeah, and like Paul, I agree. I think the swift turnaround we get with support, I think last couple of weeks, I ended up calling 3 times for 3 different scenarios, and they were all dealt with within 24 hours. So I think the support, you have to have the support back up, and we've got that, especially if you are wanting to branch out into providing HR or payroll services to your clients. It's important to have somebody else supporting you because you may not have the expertise yourself to do it.
I was just going to move on a bit more. Sorry, I've got
Frankie,
my notes.
take it
I've got
away.
to go through my notes, all right? I've got them all listed. So then the other service line we've obviously offered is employee payments. Again, a really, really easy thing to offer a client. If you've got a business owner that's stressed and pretty useless at doing anything on time, just remove that from their task list is brilliant. So we use Telaroo. There's obviously other great payment services out there, but it's such a good service, and then that equally opens up the opportunity to then offer supplier payments, and then you're talking more about them to do their bookkeeping. So every conversation you're having about extra services then opens up just what you can offer.
Yeah, and again, we're working with Citrus to be one of the first to actually do payroll or salary payments from within Citrus. We use it with and have used it with Xero's payroll. But again, it's that ability that people like Citrus can adapt and change because they're agile enough compared to some of the big boys to be able to say, yeah, we can get you an integration with Telaroo or Comma to make that process slicker, quicker. And for us, the less human touch points in that process, the more accurate the data and ultimately those payments are going to be. The number of times we try and reconcile the net wages account and someone's transposed 96p as 69, and it's, well, what the hell do we do? Have we underpaid, overpaid? Do we give them the extra 30p, or do we write it back? That disappears if you use.
Or they get paid the salary of somebody else. That one's always an awkward one to discuss with an employee.
Or we've had a whole payroll paid to one employee. Someone was quite happy with 100 grand in their bank.
Well, briefly, until I had to
How
took
did that
it back.
happen?
I think the manager got a bit fed up. Not my manager, by the way, the company manager that was making the payments. And that's what it does do. It releases the director or the finance man or woman to all they've got to do is make one payment from their bank to the likes of Teleroo or Comma, and it will filter the wages straight into the employee's bank accounts at a date and time agreed. So you can be 3 weeks, 4 weeks in advance on your payroll.
I think you make some really good points. For me, the excitement of the cloud, which I saw years ago when I first saw Xero, is to have this seamless transition and flow of data. So it gets entered once somewhere and gets used really usefully. But what sometimes is missed is you've got to have this intelligent person reviewing that transition to make sure the transitions happen well at every stage, and that's where you guys come in. So hopefully, these cloud tools can take away the legwork, some of the stress, some of the risk, but they absolutely don't take away the need for you to be involved and to do that intelligent reviewing. It's still really important.
We refer to ourselves now as data reviewers rather than data entry. So when you think about actually other processes in bookkeeping with the likes of DEX, actually we become reviewers rather than spending time keying data in.
Can I just move us a little bit? I know that a number of the firms we talked to, even here today, and this is the most digital of the accounting shows, obviously, people are still a bit nervous about moving from where they've been desktop-based for a long old time to the cloud. What advice would you all give anybody thinking about whether to make that move or not?
From my point of view, it's a project, so you need to treat it as a solo project. That means you need to dedicate resource to it. You need to plan out your timeframes, when things are going to happen, prioritize the clients that are going to be the ones that create the efficiencies sooner, and make sure the team are on board. People always sort of worry that new technology that does things better will replace their jobs, and it's, again, that culture change that needs to be managed. So from my point of view, any change, and payroll is a big one, is you need to make sure you plan it properly and have a proper project manager on it.
So I think, obviously, again, will depend on the size of the client. So you need to make and manage accordingly. Also, you should do the move when the financial payroll year starts, because it's difficult doing it mid-year or partway through, because you're just going to end up doing a lot more work. But yes, then plan accordingly. For some clients, you might need a year leading up to it. Some clients may only need a month or so. But plan it, talk to the client, get them on board, make them understand. They also need to let their employees know, because they may not communicate to their employees. I've had emails now come through, oh, hang on, is this a new software? I've just seen this payslip come from somewhere else. So communication is key.
Paul?
Can I just interrupt on that one? I don't think you have to wait till the tax year, though, can you? You can sort of do...
Yeah, can migrate at any point.
Yeah.
We're actually in the process of migrating our second tranche into to Citrus.
Which then makes it much more manageable, and you can sort of plan your time better right then, rather than going everyone at once.
We've got tools that make that really quick and easy.
I didn't know that until recently, by the way, so that's great.
Oh, so I wasn't aware of that. I always thought it was easier to do it at the beginning of the financial year. So something new I've learned today.
And it was, but no longer.
And I would just say, yes, it's about getting the client and your staff on board, but ultimately we're all in business to make a few extra pennies. And I think if you guys can find the resource to do it, I would encourage anybody to embrace that transition into both cloud tech across the board, but specifically something like payroll, which is ever evolving. It's probably evolving quicker than accounting platforms in their own right.
And clients are becoming more savvy as well. The amount of project for finance transformations that I do, and they've already got a HR system, and they're like, why do I then have to send this data to my accountant on a separate file? they know that that's not the way things should be done. So if you're not offering that seamless data transition, they're going to pick up on it and they're going to find somebody else, I think, that will support their existing system.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Thank you. So I think we're going to probably open up the questions to the floor if any of you have any questions. We've got a roving mic that will find you. So if you've got any questions, do stick your hand in the air and our mic will come and find you.
I mean, I can go back to my bullet points. I haven't finished yet.
Hi, everyone. On pricing, would you mind explaining how much each of you would charge, I suppose, per client? I know, Rizwana, you said you charge per hour. I'd also be interested to know how much you charged as an hourly rate.
So obviously it varies on who actually is working. So if it's myself, I charge a minimum of £55 an hour now.
Payslip wise, we charge £5.50 per payslip and then £5.50 per new starter or leaver. I was going to say something really amazing, then it's just flown out my head. Oh, and then hourly rates, again, depending on the level that's required, but like £75 is usually our HR hourly rate.
Yeah, and we're not far away from Frankie. We're £5.35 to onboard a new employee, £5.35 to send somebody off, and then we charge, I think it works out about £1.35 per pay per employee per month if they're on monthly payroll. With then we hit them for a £25 per amendment fee because we want them to check their payroll once, so that we only have to process it once. And again, it's a big enough number that makes them, when they get the draft pay information, physically check it, as opposed to just going, yep, that looks right, and giving the problem back to us.
Yeah, the amount of times we've had clients that do reruns like 2-3 times a month and would just do it for free. I mean, we're just creating monsters for ourselves. So actually our new pricing regime is creating less friction.
So listening to you guys, I feel as if I might be undercharging because I don't actually spend a lot of time on payroll either. I mean, a client could typically take me half an hour, and that's it.
It sounds like you're charging £25 an hour then to do a payslip. So you're probably over.
No. That's for the whole payroll, running the whole payroll. It's not per employee. It's me, just my time.
We see it as value added, so it comes back to where do we add major value to a client? And like we say, playing with people's livelihoods is probably something that, do we get a little bit of kickback when people go, well, that's a bit expensive, but we do lay it back to them as, actually, you are playing with someone's livelihoods. If you want to get it wrong, we'll quite happily walk away and let you get on with it. But it's that reassurance, and sometimes with reassurance comes a cost.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Yeah, the one at the back, actually. Thank you.
Getting my steps in.
Thank you. I was just listening to some of the pain points you guys went through, and it's ringing some bells for me, not just for the outsourced payroll that our firm does, but also for clients. I guess I'm thinking about, is it much, like how hard is a transition to sort of get into the cloud software rather than the desktop software? Like what are some things other than just planning your time and dedicating resources? Like what were some things that you'd wished you'd maybe known? I guess Cass, or always in the cloud, but some things you had known beforehand before you started.
Yeah, I think for us, because we have always been in the cloud, we haven't had as major transition. But the biggest thing we've found that gives us a little bit of a problem is getting data from the client. So that new starter form. So again, with the whole, it comes back to Citrus, they have a full onboarding. So if you make a job offer, you do it through Citrus, and the employee, so not their employer, the employee will actually fill in as 95% of the data that you need to run a payroll. So actually, again, it comes back to the minimal number of touch points for individuals, the better. And if the employee is putting the data in, we're pretty much guaranteed it's going to be accurate, maybe bar a date of birth being 2023 rather than 1997 or whatever it is.
So for me, I actually don't find it a painful task to transition. So remember I said I did it from a desktop to a cloud-based. So when I recently done Zero to CitrusHR, I had no issues because the employee data was already set up. Any new employees now goes to the CitrusHR process. Therefore, as Paul mentioned, most of the work's done for you by the employee. So I don't find a problem doing a transition.
And we've got various tools that we've built that our team can help you use. If you wanted to move from another software product, we can almost certainly read a lot of the data that's already there and do that for you, which we're very happy to do as well. Great. Rachel, I'm not sure, have we got time for any more questions? How are we doing? We've got time for one or two, if anybody else. Burning, your chance to talk cloud payroll. As I said, the most fun you've ever had, right? So no more questions, which is fine. That's great. They can see. Frankie, I know you've got lots of exciting gems to give here.
Yeah. Just
Time to
finish off then. So other things that we've done is we also white label CitrusHR. So again, when we're talking to our clients and they have a team, we talk to them and say, right, how are you managing your team? And the white labeling means that we're able to offer CitrusHR a nice reduced price, which means, again, we're buying client loyalty and they love us for it. So that's a really nice thing we've brought in. Also career opportunities as well. So payroll, we've had people that are qualified by experience and qualified by CIPD.
PP?
Yeah, is that right?
PP or PD?
Oh, I don't know. I had it written.
They're
down.
both.
CIPP. But what that also means is by us now offering that HR service is that anyone that sort of wants to just change a bit of tact, we've been able to have career opportunities within our team as well. So they haven't felt the need to leave. We've been able to open up that that avenue for them, which I think is always great to help team morale and to know that they have a longer future with you.
Brilliant. Any other last final words from the panel? Paul?
If you haven't done it, do it. Genuinely, that transition, if you're not, and it would be interesting, and it's not my panel to lead, but how many of you are still sort of traditional payroll desktop rather than cloud-based?
It would be great to see. Show of hands?
Are you doing manual journals? I mean, that's the one thing that just changed my life when we moved onto a product that integrates with Xero. I mean, that's huge time savings.
I would encourage you to visit the Citrus team, or we're quite happy to sort of have a separate conversation around what that transition looked like and the benefits that we've ultimately found, probably on a more detailed level if you'd like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I agree with Paul. I think just by you as being able to sell more on as part of your basic accountancy services is great. So talk to CitrusHR is all I can say.
We're certainly very happy to help. That's what we're here for. But we're much better that you hear it from people who are using it than from us. So anyway, thank you for your time even. You've been a great audience, right?
The best.
No heckling.
Thank you.
I like this. Thank you. Thanks ever so much to the panel. Really appreciate it.